What if the greatest threat to your potential isn't failure, isn't fear, and isn't even your enemies, but the notification sitting on your phone right now? We live in an era that celebrates busyness. We wear exhaustion like a badge of honor. We talk about how much we have going on, as if volume of activity were proof of a life well lived. But here's the question no one is asking out loud. What if you are the most distracted version of yourself that has ever existed, and you've simply normalized it so completely that you can no longer feel the damage? Because distraction is not an inconvenience. Distraction is not a bad habit. Distraction is a slow execution of everything you were supposed to become. I want you to think about a man named Thomas. Thomas is 29 years old and genuinely talented. People who know him say he's one of the sharpest minds in the room. He has ideas that could matter. He has a project he's been building in his head for 2 years. Every morning, he wakes up with intention. He's going to work on the project today. He opens his laptop. He checks his messages, just quickly. He sees something interesting on social media. He reacts, scrolls, responds. He checks the news. He feels vaguely anxious about the state of the world. He closes the app and opens his work file. His phone buzzes. He looks. He puts it down. He tries to find his train of thought. It's gone. He spends the next 40 minutes doing shallow tasks that feel productive, but require nothing of him. By noon, he is mentally depleted. The project of the real work never happened. By night, he tells himself he'll have more focus tomorrow. Thomas is not weak. Thomas is not lazy. Thomas is hunted. And the thing hunting him was designed by some of the most sophisticated engineers and behavioral psychologists on the planet, funded by billions of dollars, optimized over billions of data points, with one singular objective: to capture his attention and never give it back. B.F. Skinner, the behavioral psychologist, discovered in the mid-20th century that the most addictive reward system is not the one that rewards every action, nor the one that never rewards. It is the one that rewards unpredictably. He called it variable ratio reinforcement. Pull the lever sometimes and nothing happens. Pull it again and you get a reward. You don't know when, so you keep pulling. Skinner discovered this with pigeons. Silicon Valley perfected it with humans. Every scroll, every refresh, every notification is a lever, and you are pulling it hundreds of times a day, training yourself into a state of perpetual fragmentation. The ancient Stoics saw this coming. Not the technology, but the principle. Seneca, writing 2,000 years ago, warned, "It is not that I have little time, it is that I waste much of it." He described the man who runs from one distraction to the next, mistaking movement for progress, novelty for meaning. Seneca called this the greatest poverty of the mind, not ignorance, but the inability to be present with a single thing long enough to go deep. He believed that a scattered mind was not just inefficient, it was a form of self-betrayal. Here is what I call the silent erasure. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Every time you allow a distraction to interrupt a deep task, you don't just lose the seconds it takes to check the notification. Research on cognitive switching suggests that after an interruption, it takes an average of 23 minutes to fully return to the depth of focus you had before. 23 minutes for a glance at a message, for a scroll that lasted 40 seconds. The math is brutal. 3 interruptions in a morning and you have effectively eliminated your capacity for deep work entirely. Not reduced it, eliminated it. What remains is the performance of productivity, motion without depth, activity without creation. And the deepest wound is not the lost time. The deepest wound is what distraction does to your identity over years. William James, the father of American psychology, wrote that the faculty of voluntarily bringing back a wandering attention over and over again is the very root of judgment, character, and will. He believed that the ability to focus, truly focus, was not a skill among other skills. It was the meta-skill, the foundation upon which every other human capacity was built. When you erode your attention through years of habitual distraction, you don't just become less productive, you become less yourself, less capable of the depth of thought that makes you irreplaceable, less able to sit with discomfort long enough to create something that matters. Now let me show you the architecture of the solution. Because knowing the problem is not enough, understanding the enemy is only the beginning of the war. The first layer is environmental design. Willpower is a resource, and it depletes. This is not a metaphor, it is a neurological fact. The research of Roy Baumeister demonstrated repeatedly that acts of self-control draw from a limited cognitive reservoir. This means that fighting distraction with willpower alone is a losing battle. Every time you resist the phone, you spend a unit of the same mental energy you need for deep work. The answer is not more discipline. The answer is removing the need for discipline by redesigning your environment. Your phone should not be in the room where you do your most important work. The apps that fragment your attention should require enough friction to access that the impulse dies before the action completes. You are not building stronger willpower. You are building a battlefield where the enemy has no entry point. The second layer is the depth window. Elite performers across disciplines, from chess grandmasters to concert pianists to the most prolific writers in history, share a structural habit that most people overlook. They do not try to stay focused all day. They protect 1 to 4 hours of absolute, undivided, uninterruptible attention on their most important work, and they treat everything else as secondary. This window is not a suggestion in their calendar. It is a border. Nothing crosses it. No meetings, no messages, no exceptions. The rest of the day can be reactive. The depth window is sovereign. You are not trying to be focused all the time. You are trying to be completely focused at the right time. That distinction changes everything. The third layer is the true cost accounting. Most people think of distraction in terms of immediate time lost, but you need to think in terms of compounding. Every hour of deep work you protect today is not just 1 hour of output. It is an investment in a compounding skill, the ability to think at depth, to create at the edge of your capacity, to produce work that cannot be replicated by someone operating in a state of constant fragmentation. Every hour of distraction you allow today is not just 1 hour of lost output. It is 1 hour of training yourself deeper into a pattern that will take months to reverse. You're not choosing between checking your phone and not checking your phone. You are choosing between two futures, one built in the depths, one consumed on the surface. The fourth layer is what I call the identity declaration. This is where the psychology becomes personal and the transformation becomes possible. The people who successfully eliminate distraction from their lives do not do so, primarily because they found the right app blocker or the right productivity system. They do so because they made a decision about who they are. They decided, consciously, deliberately, that they are someone for whom attention is sacred. Someone who does not trade depth for novelty. Someone whose most valuable resource is not money, not time, but focus. When this becomes part of your identity rather than part of your to-do list, the behavior changes at the root. You stop fighting temptation, case by case, and start operating from a different self-concept entirely. Identity is the most powerful behavior change mechanism that exists. Not rules, not apps, not accountability partners. Who you decide you are. The fifth layer is selective reconnection. Eliminating distraction does not mean retreating from the world. It means creating deliberate, bounded windows for the reactive work of life. Messages, emails, social media, news, so that they serve you rather than consume you. The reactive mind has its place. Collaboration matters, communication matters, but it must exist in service of the creative mind, not in competition with it. 2 or 3 defined windows per day for reactive tasks gives you everything you need without surrendering the depth that makes you powerful. Now let me be direct with you, because I think you deserve that more than you deserve comfort. You already know this. Some version of what I've described tonight you have known for years. You've read the articles, you've downloaded the focus apps, you've told yourself you were going to change. And then the notifications came back on, and the scrolling resumed, and the project stayed unfinished. So the question isn't whether you know that distraction is destroying you. The question is whether you're willing to admit what it's actually costing you. Not in abstract productivity terms, but in the specific, irreplaceable things you are not creating because your attention has been colonized. What is the work that only you can do that is not getting done? What is the idea living inside you that dies a little more every year it remains unborn? What kind of thinker, creator, or builder could you be if you protected your attention with the same ferocity that the attention economy spends trying to steal it? Thomas, our Thomas from the beginning of this, eventually understood. Not from a productivity book, from a moment of grief. He looked at his project one night, 2 years into building it, in his head, and realized with sickening clarity that nothing had actually been built, that the ideas were still just ideas, that the version of himself who was going to create something had been quietly, systematically dismantled, not by any single distraction, but by the accumulated erosion of 10,000 small surrenders of attention. That night, he made a decision. Not a plan, a decision. He was done being hunted. And that decision, that single shift in identity, changed the conditions of every day that followed. You are not fighting against technology. You are not fighting against your phone. You are fighting for the quality of your own consciousness, for the right to think deeply in a world designed to prevent it, for the ability to create something that required you to be fully present, fully committed, fully alive in the work. That fight is worth every uncomfortable moment of reclaiming your attention. So here is what I want you to do right now. Not tomorrow. Not after. You finish scrolling right now. I want you to write in the comments one word. Depth. Just that. One word. It will cost you 3 seconds, and it will mean something. It will be the first act of a different version of you. One who chooses the deep over the surface, the built over the browsed, the real over the reactive. If this is the kind of conversation you want to keep having, about the mind, the will, the silent wars that determine who we become, then subscribe. Because this channel exists for the people who are done with surface-level advice and ready for something that actually changes the architecture of their lives. The world will keep pulling at your attention. The question is whether you'll let it win.